Welcome to Shah's IAS Institute, taking a look at news for 7th October 2016. The 7 news items which we have picked up from today's newspaper, The Hindu, are: first one, attack on Kupwara army camp foiled. 3 terrorists killed. So, 3 or rather 7 terrorists have been killed as news comes. So, army camps in Kupwara are again being attacked. This is the cross-border LOC firing and insurgency which we are seeing continuing in Jammu and Kashmir. Second news is about Supreme Court threatens to snap BCCI funding for domestic cricket. This is in regard to the Lodha panel recommendations for reforms in BCCI, which Supreme Court has upheld. It was a committee also panel set up by Supreme Court only. So now it has upheld those recommendations and wants BCCI to implement it. BCCI is not adhering, so now Supreme Court is giving stern warnings to it. Next is bulk of Delhi's pollution comes from neighboring states. So a report has been put in public domain which shows that Delhi is considered to be a very polluted city. Particulate matter pollution particularly is very high. But the reasons given in this report are that Delhi alone is not responsible. Its geographical location is such that it gets these particulate matter pollutions from surrounding regions, even from Pakistan. So that is there. The next news item, GM mustard may be stalled. So genetically modified mustard crop has been given preliminary approval, but now it seems that there are still protests and court case going on. So it may be stalled now. The other item, India-Sri Lanka Economic Pact by 2016 end. So Ranil Wickremesinghe wants, we already have an FTA, free trade agreement with Sri Lanka. Now we are looking into and strengthening that and having a trade agreement even in not just trade in goods but in services investments also. So this is regarding that. The Al-Shabaab, which is a terrorist organization dominant in East Africa, majorly Somalia, Kenya, has undertaken another terrorist strike targeting Christians. Then USA has spoken out against Israel for building new settlements in the West Bank region, which is closer to the boundary with Jordan. So we'll discuss each one of these in detail now. First, so attack on the Kupwara army camp. Cross-border firing across the LOC is going on and terrorists are infiltrating, and army has responded to this and terrorists have been killed. Around 7 have been eliminated as the reports coming. The next item, polity in judiciary section. Supreme Court threatens to snap BCCI funding for domestic cricket. As we said, the Lodha committee had recommended that the reforms which it has suggested should be implemented. Supreme Court has upheld these recommendations, but still BCCI went ahead and conducted its special general meeting SGM recently. So now the Supreme Court is furious because Lodha committee recommended that all top office bearers of BCCI should step down and newly constituted office should be set up for BCCI as per the recommendations of Lodha panel. Then meetings should take place. But overlooking this, BCCI had its SGM in which it has dispersed funds. Around 400 crores have been dispersed to state associations, cricket associations. So this has been the reason for the anger of Supreme Court, that you are not adhering to the BCCI reforms which have been suggested. So the representative of BCCI in this matter is also Senior Advocate Kapil Sibal, also former HRD minister. And the reasons given by BCCI are that they cannot enforce things on the state associations, and this money which has been dispersed is what is due to them. So that is their due. We cannot stop that from being paid to these state cricket associations. But Supreme Court presently has said that you fill up application and take an undertaking that you would implement Lodha panel recommendations. So by October 7, if you do this BCCI, then it's fine. Otherwise, Supreme Court will take stern action and stop this funding. Even all domestic cricket matches would be stopped, including Ranji Trophy. So this is a threat given by Supreme Court now. There are of course some issues in this because Lodha panel is actually a recommendatory body. So a committee set up by Supreme Court gives its recommendations. Supreme Court accepts all these recommendations and asks BCCI to implement all. Even Markande Kajju, former judge, of Supreme Court has also spoken up against this act of the Supreme Court, that it is overstepping its judicial functions. So it's beyond its mandate. So that the issues are still there, but of course it is in public interest. As the arguments here are seen between Kapil Sibal and the CJI, Chief Justice of India, T.S. Thakur, it says that it's their money which we are disbursing, these 400 crores to state cricket associations, but the CJI says no, this is not their money, this is public money which has been accumulated from the public only for cricket, and BCCI is performing a public function. BCCI refuses to adhere to this. One of the Lodha panel recommendations is that it should adhere to RTI. It should come within the purview of RTI, but BCCI says we are a private body. We do not get any government funding. So Right to Information Act does not apply to us. But then it is a national level body which is looking into cricket, with a game which is followed by Indians all over the country. So of course not just India but abroad too. So the thing is that it is such a responsible function which it is adhering to, so it should come under RTI and it should function as a public body should function. So that is the reason why Supreme Court has taken upon itself to reform BCCI. There are of course issues. It has been dominated by politicians and retired government officials. We have seen that. All this started with the issue of Raj Kundra, husband of actress Shilpa Shetty too, and this Srinivasan's son-in-law Meriyappan. These two were accused of betting in IPL match, and on the because of that became the trigger, and Lodha panel was set up to give its recommendations to how to set up BCCI and what reforms are required, including what should be the punishment to these two. So they have been banned for life and their teams have been suspended for 2 years presently. So these are some of the recommendations. One of the recommendation of Lodha panel is also that betting should be legalized. No ministers, government servants should be office bearers in BCCI. Nobody above 70 years should be a member. Even the president of BCCI should get not more than 2 terms, and each term is of 3 years with a cooling off period in between too. So such are the recommendations come within RTI purview. Even players association should be there so that cricketers' views also are taken in. And one more thing is, it says one state should have only one vote in BCCI. So at national level, all states will get equal voting share. Presently, some states have multiple voting rights, and also there are city-based cricket associations and also institutional like railways and cricket associations. So all that BCCI does not give voting rights to them. Lodha panel recommends that there should be no voting rights for them. BCCI does give. So those are the kind of recommendations, right? So they all have, one more is crackdown on ads. It says ads should be there, commercials only in intervals. BCCI says this will result in loss of around 75% of the BCCI's telecast rights revenues. So it's not ready to accept these recommendations. It's trying its best, hiring the best lawyers to delay any action taken on this. So we'll wait and watch what happens tomorrow too. The next item, bulk of Delhi's pollution comes from neighboring states. This was based on a report which came up in the public domain, which is still not peer reviewed, but it will be. It has been funded by CSIR. It's a CSIR body which has Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, which is under Department of Science and Tech, a body under it which has taken up this survey and reported. So it says that it is geographical location of Delhi which results in such high pollution levels. So surrounding UP and Haryana regions also contribute to pollution. So as much as efforts are taken only in Delhi, it will not pay off. There is a requirement to take up matters beyond Delhi's region. So that is the idea. Of course, transport emissions reduction and all will pay, but there are more efforts required. So major critical part is about PM25, particulate matter 2.5. This is of 2.5 micrometers. So these particulate matters are very tiny and present everywhere, and they result in many respiratory diseases, including cancers too. So that is seen. So of course there is a need. Delhi in 2014 was declared as the most polluted city in the world. So of course we need to bring down pollution. The government had also launched the Air Quality Index. That's part of Swachh Bharat Abhiyan in 2014. So this index monitors 5 pollutants including of course particulate matter 2.5. Another is PM10, 10 micrometers. Then third one is ozone, nitrogen dioxide and carbon monoxide. So these are monitored, and air quality index has been launched and will be implemented throughout the country, initially in cities. So this is color coding, one index, one color code is given for each. So good, satisfactory, so even layman can understand what is the air quality index in their city or locality. So this was launched. Right? So good, satisfactory. You can look at the particulate matter pollutants too. This is a detailing out on that too, particulate matter. So it reduces life expectancy, it results in low birth weight of in pregnant women who are affected due to particulate matter inhalation. So there are issues involved, of course. Then this is air quality index as has been shown in various cities at one point of time in 2015, just to give you an idea of how AQI is used in force. This is also again how high air quality index is in various major cities in India. Right? So Delhi is worst affected, we know. Next is GM mustard. So the center has given preliminary approval to GM mustard. This is Dhara mustard hybrid 11, DMH11 as it is known as. But an NGO has filed a case in the Supreme Court, and it says that this is against a Supreme Court verdict, a committee of the Supreme Court which had declared that no herbicide tolerant crops should be allowed to be permitted in India, to be sown in India. So this DMH11 has a gene called BAR, which confers herbicide tolerance. So it will be having long-term consequences because herbicides will be affected, all herbicides, and that will proliferate. So genetic modification results in dominance of one particular type of species and other varieties are lost. So there are concerns, of course, related to GM crops. So this has been, prosecuted, a case has been filed. GEAC, Genetic Engineering Approval Committee, is the India's regulatory body who approves GM crops. So government is also in favor of GM crops, but till date it is only BT cotton, only GM crop which has been approved in India. No food crop. Mustard will also result in oil seeds, and it says that the yield would increase, 25% increase in yield, which will also reduce the vegetable oil imports which India undertakes. So of course it is beneficial, but we have to look at the long-term consequences too. So there are still apprehensions amongst the public. So it is been delaying, and let's see what the Supreme Court also says regarding this. Another issue was that the biosafety dossier about this GM mustard was not put in public domain. So this also again brings in doubts in the minds of people. So that is the case. Then the next article about Sri Lanka. India, Sri Lanka want to enhance their bilateral trade. An FTA is already in place, but now Sri Lanka and India both want to extend it beyond goods into services and investments also. So a pact will be concluded by year end. That's what is expected. Another interesting suggestion which the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, Ranil Wickremesinghe, made recently was that he asked for considering expansion of BIMSTEC. BIMSTEC is Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral, Technical and Economic Cooperation. So this was a multilateral grouping formed, and this presently has 7 members: India, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Sri Lanka and Thailand. So what he is suggesting is this should be expanded, and there should be other members, like these are Asian members. Asian members, only Myanmar and Thailand are present in this. It wants members like Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia should also be added into BIMSTEC. So this was a suggestion given by him to India too. So let's see what happens on this. Next is Al-Shabaab, a terrorist organization in Kenya, dominant in East Africa, majorly in Somalia and also in Kenya, undertook another terrorist attack. It is associated with Al-Qaeda, others to Al-Qaeda views. And last one, USA hits out on Israel over new settlement. So news comes in that Israel is building 300 housing units in West Bank region, which is far closer to Jordan rather than near Israel. West Bank and Gaza Strip are the two regions which would comprise Palestine if such a country is ever formed. So this has been rebuked by USA. It has also given its military aid recently.